to the Summer Band 2025 concert. We are very excited to have such a great number of students this year. Back in 2021, we started Summer Band back up. It actually, I believe if you read in your program notes, I think it started back in like the 70s. They did it for a few years on and off, things like that. And we kind of revived it the year after COVID in 2021. We had 80 students participate that first year. The year after that, we had 100. The year after that, we had 120. This year, we made a huge jump up to 157 students. So we're super excited. Yeah, round of applause, yeah. So it is super exciting to see this program. It's really turned into quite the program here. And you know, the kids are having a blast, we're having a blast, and it's just such a fun week to kind of come together in the summer and make some music and hang out with our friends, things like that. So before we get started, we've got some door prizes. Mr. Porter was making fun of me and do some door. We have some extra t-shirts. So if you are in a chair, sorry, people in the bleachers, if you're in a chair, take a look under your chair. If you've got one of those papers that say that you're a winner, raise your hand real quick, and our students will go give you a shirt. Go hand those out to the winners. If you're a winner, raise your hand. You guys go pass those out. Here's one. We got a winner here. Here's a winner. We got a winner. Alright, so first and foremost, we normally do this at the end of the concert, but we want to start by giving a few quick thank yous. First and foremost, all of the families who came and donated either your time during recess and snack time this week, or if you donated snacks at the beginning of the week, we cannot thank you enough. Those donations and your volunteer time, it really makes this run like a well-oiled machine. So thank you so much. If you were a family member who either donated or if you were a volunteer, can you stand up just to quickly be recognized? And you all, give a round of applause for them, for their donations or their time this week. Thank you. Up next, we're going to give a huge thank you to all of our custodians. You can imagine it's their favorite thing to have 170 kids here in the summer. Yeah, but it's, you know, they're trying to get their jobs done over the summer. They're doing a ton of work, and they have just been so gracious with, you know, giving us the spaces that we need and helping us with things that we need. So really big thank you to all those custodians. I don't think they're in the room right now, but if you see them around, maybe just give them a quick thank you on your way out the door today. Also, our admin and our teachers. I saw Mr. Niedermeyer in the back. I see our Brand. If you've never met him, you've probably never met him, because I just met him this morning. Mr. Griffin, can you give us a big wave back there? This is our new principal, Mr. Griffin, yeah! So big round of applause to Mr. Griffin. We are excited to welcome him to the family here at BMS, and it's really cool that he was able to make it to our concert today as well. But if you're a teacher or an administrator, can you also just stand to be recognized? I know there were a few teachers around as well. Round of applause for our teachers and our administrators. Thank you. And two more. I cannot tell you how much work our Brunswick High School band students, they come and they do so much, especially on Monday. They get here super early on Monday. We have to, you know, get all the folders ready with the music and, you know, little tasks in between. So high school students, can you guys stand up? Give them a huge round of applause. They were a huge help this week. Thank you, high school students. You guys are the best. And last but not least, this would not be possible with an amazing team that we have here. So just super quickly, Mrs. Timko here, Mr. Bennett back here, Mr. Porter back here, Mrs. Barth, where are you at? Mrs. Barth up here, and Mrs. Woods wasn't able to make it for the concert, but let's give a round of applause to all of our staff as well. Great team, great friends to work with as well. You know, my phone's, I normally don't do this, my phone's ringing like a ton. It's probably an emergency. Can you take a... Of course. Oh my gosh, I hope everything's okay.
I'm delighted to be here today. This is my third summer teaching with the summer middle school bands. I currently teach at Kidder, and when I first started my career, I started out at high school marching band and middle school, so now I'm at Kidder, but it's fun to dip the toe and work with the summer band. This has been a great week. They have made enormous progress. I'm going to conduct, I think, the hardest piece out of the group, because it changes time signatures, which changes the way the students count. It also has tempo changes, and there's two different stylistic parts of the music, which they are executing really well. It's called Colliding Visions, and it's written by a very famous band composer, instrumental composer, who also conducts and performs. He resides in Baltimore, Maryland, but Brian Baldridge just really writes high quality music. So I'm going to start us off with Colliding Visions. Are accompanied with the best music. So John Williams is a prolific composer, still alive today, and has written so much movie music. And today we are going to perform music from Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park premiered in 1993, and there is another sequence of the movie coming out this Wednesday. So maybe this will inspire you to head out to the movies. I'm just still wondering where Mr. Allen is. Well, I am thrilled to announce our special guest for this next piece. And this would be the second time Thomas Rex will be performing. Please give a hearty welcome to Mr. Thomas Rex.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Coming out. If you see Mr. Allen, maybe send him back our way. Thanks. Hi, y'all. If we haven't met, I'm Mr. Porter, high school band director. I am so thrilled to be here this week. It's been awesome to get back to my roots a little bit and work with the middle schoolers, especially since I don't get to see them during the year. We had a wonderful time putting together a Randall Standridge piece called Alarm. That's our final piece for you. As the name implies, this is Randall's attempt at capturing the essence of the word alarm in every way, whether that be the state of being alarmed or the sound of an alarm. He uses a lot of interesting sounds, some very tricky intervals throughout the piece to evoke that. So our last piece for you today is Alarm by Randall Standridge. I'm so sorry. Did you guys already do Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
I saw this huge dinosaur there. I was running. He conducted? Oh my goodness. That's Sorry about that emergency. I've never had that happen at a concert before. That's crazy. All right, well, we want to thank you once again. Can we give one more big round of applause to all of our students for all their hard work this year? And I also want to give one little tiny special recognition. If you're an 8th grader, can you stand, like last year's 8th graders? This is officially their last day of middle school band. Can we give our 8th graders one little farewell? Thank you, 8th graders. We hope to see you guys back in a year or 2 or 3 as a high school helper student. All right, so as we wrap up here, our students are going to be kind of running around the building, making sure we need to get all chairs, music stands on racks. All those racks need to go to the band room. All of these chairs and stands, percussionists, all that stuff goes Tetris style in the band room against the window there. And then we also need to rack all these chairs on that rack there. And then high school students, if you could also just do a double check in the cafeteria, make sure everything's cleaned up in there, so we're not leaving a mess for custodians. That would be a big help. And I think that's it. So we're gonna start this video back here. You're welcome to stay as long as you want to. It's about 30 minutes, I think, while they clean up, and then you're free to go. Hope you have a great rest of your summer, and we'll see everybody in August.